Hello, you guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Aja, and today I'm going to discuss a little bit about autism and the differences between a developmental delay and autism and how to know the difference. So, I want to open up this conversation with a quote from President Donald Trump.
We have one
So,
stat that I quote, the autism stat, and you hear different numbers, but it's thousands. They say between 10 and 20,000. So if you go back 15 years ago, we had like nobody. It was 1 in 20,000. Now we have 1 in 34. Is that right? 34. So 34 or 36 kids have autism. And if you go back, I guess 18 years, that whenever that was done, it was 1 in 20,000. So we got from 20,000 to 34, 36. That's unbelievable. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. We've done something wrong. There's something, you're going to figure it out. Maybe it's a spray that we spray all over the place that nobody else does. Other countries don't. The Pennsylvania Dutch, they don't do anything, and they're amazingly healthy. And
so he mentioned that about 15 to 20 years ago, there was 1 in 20,000. 20,000 people who were autistic. Right now, today, he is saying that 1 out of 34 people are autistic. Just think about that. Just think about it. He goes on to say that this is an issue in our society and we need to do something about it. And I agree with him. So I have a baby girl. She just turned 2 years old. And I'm gonna take you guys on a little bit of journey throughout her life so far. So when I was pregnant with her, I had a completely normal pregnancy. Everything was fine. She was growing. And towards the end of my pregnancy, I developed something called cloasis of pregnancy. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but basically that is an issue with my liver that I cannot basically like my liver isn't functioning the way it should be, and it will cause all kind of conditions for the fetus, and it could even cause death, you guys. So you could understand why it was an emergency for me to be induced, so that I could deliver her. So that's what happened. She was born 3 weeks early because of that. So my delivery went well. She had no issues with any of her tests except for one test, and she had hearing. She did not pass her hearing test in one of her ears. So we had to go back and we found out that there was fluid in one of her ears. But they did a different type of hearing test where they figured out, like, yes, she can actually hear. So as far as the fluid is concerned, they told me that, everything that was in the sack that she was in, some of it just gets, all in the crannies and stuff of babies, and it would eventually just, naturally come out. So, that's what I trusted. So, to make a long story short, I breastfed her, and then I started to pump maybe around, I don't know, 3 to 4 months. I started to pump, and then I bottle fed her after that. So she took her multivitamins, vitamin D. I was very cautious about that kind of thing because I had never breastfed before. So I didn't know that babies need that vitamin D supplement when they're breastfed. So That is something you don't actually know until you know, or until you need to know. So when as she was developing, I just started to just notice little quirky things about her. She would kind of struggle with eye contact. She was struggling to like sit up and hit those milestones. But as I did research, I realized that kids kind of have a range. It's not like, oh, at 6 months they have to be doing this. But I realized that the range cuts off somewhere and says by this time they should be doing this. So I tried to keep that in mind with her because she was raised a lot differently than my other kids. My other kids went to daycare very early. My daughter, she went to daycare when she was 6 weeks old. So you couldn't just imagine the different life that she had because my baby girl was home with me. She didn't have interaction with other kids. So it wasn't a real big surprise that, she was having these type of struggles. So fast forward to when she turns about 6 months. One day I was just walking, was pushing her in the stroller, and I looked down and she was having like what I thought was a seizure. So of course I reacted like crazy. The people thought I was crazy. I mean, it stopped, and they were like, do you want us to call the ambulance and stuff? I was like, yeah, no, don't worry about it, I'm heading straight to the emergency room. So I decided to do that. When I went to the emergency room, I was able to film when it was happening because don't ask me how. This was just like a mother's intuition, like start filming, because I don't know if you noticed, but anytime your kids say that they're sick or something is wrong and then they go to the hospital and then nothing is wrong, it always happens that way. So my intuition just said, just record. So I had, a couple of seconds of this happening, and I'm going to put this on the screen so that you can see exactly what I was seeing and experiencing in that moment. I was not calm. I was a complete wreck. And I'm calm now because the storm is over. And that's why I'm able to kind of open up about it now. But when I went to the emergency room, the doctor asked me, what's going on. I was explaining it, and he was just like, oh, he checked her out, and everything was fine. And then it wasn't until I showed him the video to where panic kind of sank in for him, and he immediately got on the phone and called the neurologist, pediatrician, like directly on the phone, and he got me an appointment for the very next morning at 7:30. So I was so relieved because they were being very proactive and they were addressing my needs basically. So the very next day we ended up at the neurologist, and she was getting ready to get an EEG. And you guys could just imagine as a mother what is going through my head, because I don't know what's wrong with my baby. And just seeing all those cords, just she not knowing what's going on, and it was very, very, very scary. And I was so scared, and I didn't know what to do. But I knew that I could not worry. It wasn't nothing that I could do. So she had the 3 hour EEG, and yes, the spasms were caught on camera, and they determined that they were not affecting her brain. So they were not seizures, which was a huge relief. They were not seizures, but the question is, what were they? And to this day, like, I don't know. When I left the neurologist's office, they could not tell me what it was, right? So, me just doing my own research and stuff, it kind of brought me back to, is she autistic? Because it was a lot of, it was a autism mother forum that I had found, and some parents had expressed that they had this same or similar experiences with their children, and they initially didn't know what it was. So I was scared to death. Nobody wants their child to have a disability. But I said, you know what? I'm giving this to God. I can't worry about it. Like, I am in a place right now where I'm able to take care of her. I'm able to research and learn everything that I need to learn about this so that I can help her get through life. And that's what I had committed to do. And I even talked to her about it, y'all. She was so little. She was just looking like, okay, But I was like, I love you and I'm going to take care of you, whatever that looks like, it's us, right? So, as she's getting older, I'm still noticing certain things. She has pretty much all of the signs that I had read. She, had aversions to food. She wasn't speaking. Um, she had poor eye contact. She had hand gestures, that were not the same as what I would consider, a normal hand gesture. And I was still, just scared, like, what is it, what's going on. I talked to her pediatrician about it, and they at the time felt like it was, a little too early to be able to assess her and whatnot. So they wanted me to just kind of monitor everything. So by the time she turned 1 years old, she still wasn't walking. She wasn't really talking much. She would say like small things like mama, dad, dad, but never like anything much other. I think she might have been saying like eat, but not to eat exactly. And she would do signs. She would do more. She would do eat like that, and she would clap too. So that was a good one. But outside of that, she wasn't really communicating much. And she did the famous one. She would not answer to her name at all. So I would have to be like, hey, 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 to get her attention. And then, she would then engage with me a little bit, but she was just kind of like very in her own lane, like, in her own space and in her own mind. So, fast forward to when she's about, I don't know, I'm going to say about like 14, 15 months. And that is when she actually started to walk. So, me kind of being ignorant to, the different age groups with walking, I thought this was a delay. But I realized that this isn't a delay. Like, if you have a child that's walking at like 9 months and earlier or whatnot, then that is an early walker. And then like 18 months, I believe, to like 24, those are late walkers. So anytime in between those ages are like the perfect age. But for me, I was comparing her to my other children who walked early, talked early, did all the things, So, I shouldn't have been doing that, but that's what I was doing because I didn't know no better. So, to answer your questions that you probably already have, she never had the spasms again. But at the time, they thought that they might have been infantile spasms. And I don't remember the exact definition of it, but basically, it's just like childhood seizures of some sort that, and it was pretty scary to kind of think about, but they ruled that out during the neurologist visit. So when she turned 18 months is when I had her 18-month checkup. And I told the pediatrician all of my concerns and, all the things I had written out in my notes on my phone, like all the things that she was doing, all the things she was eating, the things she wouldn't eat, the things she was saying. I mean, I just had it down to a science about everything that she was going through. And they told me that she might benefit from early intervention. So I was given the resources. I reached out to them within like 30 days. She had a speech therapist that was coming to the house about every 2 weeks. So the program is a really great program. It is they you meet with, I think, like 8 different professionals, and they kind of tell you about themselves and how it works and whatnot, and you decide as the parent like who you want to work with and what you want to work on and what your goals are for your kids. So it's not directly with the kids, it's like you working with them, and they teach you how to deal with the kids. So different approach to intervention, but I was all for whatever I needed to do to learn how to teach her the skills that she needs to be successful. So, fast forward, we end up moving, so we had to basically cut off services. But then when we moved, we started back services. So currently, she sees a speech therapist every 2 weeks, and her vocabulary is flourishing now, because she just kind of is teaching me, like, make sure like when you're saying something you say it 3 times, and then she'll repeat it, and just being very intentional with things. No matter what you're doing, I'm putting on your shoes, I'm combing your hair, stuff like that, has helped her vocabulary. When I went to her second year appointment, I did a questionnaire, and some of the things that was on the questionnaire for the typical developing 2-year old, she was not doing just yet at the time. So the pediatrician suggested that we just continue with the intervention through the state, but also did a referral for a one-on-one speech therapist through our insurance. So the thing is that at this point, at her age group, 2 to 3 is when some parents are more comfortable with getting an autism diagnosis, because during these years is when everything just really starts to develop and come out. So that's what he was kind of explaining to me. But he was going through her records, and he's like, hey, she had a lead test and her lead levels were really high. Did anybody call you and talk to you about it? And I was like, no, nobody called me. And he's like, yes. And he explained to me how lead levels work and how they affect, the developing brain of children. And I was blown away. I just burst out in tears because she got this lead test at her 12th baby well checkup. And nobody called me. Nobody let me know that my baby had high levels of lead. And at the time, they knew that she had developmental concerns, because, I was just like, yeah, I'm concerned. She's not pointing. She's not, saying this and doing this. And, I was just like, wait a minute, something's not right. And nobody ever mentioned that to me. So that just, I was pretty upset. I'm just surprised that I'm even able to talk about it now, because I was just so mad. But we're here now. So he explained to me, and he's like, okay, I want to get another test so that I can compare, right? So we took another test, and oh God, if you ever had a baby that had to get blood work, it's so bad. But she is a champ. She cried for all of a couple of seconds, and then she was okay. With a little bit of cuddles and stuff, she was okay. But when the levels came back, they were even higher than they were back when she was 1. So this just tells me that whatever exposed her to it, it was continuously done. So in our old house, our house was built in the 1970s, and at the time, you know, they used like lead based paint to paint the walls and stuff, and they don't fix it as the years go by. They just paint over it, you know. And the thing is that with lead, you don't know where it comes from. It could come from batteries, the baby just picking up. Even like if you have touched coins and then you touch the baby, then now the baby is exposed. They got everything in their mouth. I mean, it's a million ways that a child can be exposed to lead. So a solution was to put her on a medication that was supposed to like bond to the lead in her system, and then she was supposed to urine it out. But the problem with that is that this medication is pretty it's pretty strong for a toddler her age. So it's not the first, you know, treatment that doctors want to use. And you know, I was okay with that because I don't want anything put into her system that will make things worse. You know, if I could find some type of holistic way, you know, to remove lead, then I would want to do it that way. So right now, it's just kind of like just monitoring that. But at the same time, I did research on it in conjunction with what he explained to me is that when lead is in the system of a toddler, it affects their development. Period. Like every aspect of them developing, it affects in a negative way. So this lead could be the reason, you know, that all this stuff is going on, you know, and I'm just devastated to know that. This kind of brings me back to what President Trump said about autism, because you know, back a long time ago, I don't know that all of the ways that all the toxins and things that we have in our society just didn't really exist. And you know, it's always a battle of, you know, what causes it and everything. I've heard about immunizations being the root cause of that, and I just don't know, because I know kids that don't have any vaccinations and they one of them are still autistic, you know. So I don't know, it's so hard, it's so hard. Is it genetics, you know? Is it, you know, it does it run through the family? Is it a chromosome issue? I just feel like it's a combination of everything. I don't think it's just one just deciding factor at all. So at the end of the day, you know, when we have children, you know, we just have to make sure that we're just doing the best that we can, you know, and if something does go wrong and we have to end up dealing with this, then we have the resources to be educated about it. I agree with President Donald Trump and the fact that we need to do something about this, because those numbers are alarming and it's very scary. You know, it's scary because you know, you don't know what's going on. And my kids couldn't even go to daycare without getting shots. You know, they have to have all their shots. You know, we're not like getting a religious exemption or anything. So even if I didn't agree with it or whatnot, it wouldn't even matter because they have to get it or they can't go. You know, so I definitely think that all of the studies, some discredit, some says linked, you know, I just think as parents, we just have to decide what is best for us and best for our children. So I wanted to kind of continue on my baby's journey really quick. So when a child has a speech delay, because that's really all that she's going through now, like all of the things that happened in her very very early life, she kind of grew out of it. She doesn't have like eye contact issues anymore. Um, she she does want to interact with you, especially me. She just like wants my attention all the time. She wants me playing with her and stuff, and no, that's not really typical of autistic children. everybody is different because the spectrum is a very large spectrum where they kids vary all which way. But from what I have learned through my research that I have done, most kids kind of want to be left alone, kind of want to play by themselves, and that's something that she really doesn't do. Another thing is I can tell that she's very interested in learning and speaking. I think that she just can't. Well, at least like as far as the sentence is concerned, because she's only 2, so you can't really expect like a motor mouth, but there are some 2-year olds that can speak that way. But what I have found out just today that sparked this video is that my baby has a hearing problem. Now, she can hear. If you call her name, she'll answer. If you say anything, she can react. She can, say her ABC. She can count to 20. Actually, she can count to 30. She she has a very large capability to learn. But what I found out is that in her middle ear, and I'll put this on the screen because so that I can explain it a little better. But the doctor told me that in her middle ear, right behind her middle ear, there's a structure, and the structure is basically like there's pressure there, and he described it as basically like how you would feel if you're on an airplane, that pressure, but she's not in any pain, but she feels that pressure. And if you can recall, when you're on a plane and something, your ears need to pop and somebody is talking to you, it's like muffled, like so that is what she hears most of the time. So if you know anything about like how the ear works, and like people that are deaf and that have issues with hearing, what goes in is what comes out. So if it goes in muffled, if they hear it muffled, then that's what it comes out. And that is the way that her language is. And that is also something that I had brought up to her pediatrician, and they never mentioned that. So yeah, us parents, we got to do our own research. But today, so as far as the solution is concerned, so in the next month I'll go back for another test, and at that time they'll recheck they'll basically conduct the same test they conducted today, and then they'll determine if she needs a referral to the ears and throat doctor. And at that appointment is when they'll determine if she needs ear tubes. So ear tubes is basically like a little bitty structure. It's like a little thing, and it's like a surgical procedure. They put it in your ears and it releases pressure. So she would have to be sedated in order for them to do this, and that was so scary for me. But I didn't break down because she is thriving, you guys. She like if you would have talked to me about this back when she was early, like 1-ish, I was very very beat up about it because I never experienced it. Like, if you know me in real life, you know that my life, like, I got a lot going on at all times, and it's just I'm able to manage it. I'm able to manage my life, but I've never dealt with anyone personally to me that had a disability. So that was very scary for me. And for it to be my own child, that I gave birth to it, and then I start feeling like, did I do something? Because I used to drink Red Bulls all day, every day. Like, before. And I'm like, did I have too many Red Bulls that just like, oh God, like what happened? um, but to make a long story short, um, we are in the process of all of this. The question is she autistic? Is it a developmental delay? I don't know. I don't know where she falls. At this point, we have a referral for the developmental pediatrician, but from with her pediatrician has already told us, he doesn't really think that. He thinks that this is definitely a developmental delay, but he's gonna let the people do an evaluation on her, which I'm totally okay with, so that we can make that determination. So my message to you watching this here today, if you have a child that has any type of concerns, do not rush to autism. I know that's the most common thing. If they, show any one thing that, but every kid is different and every kid develops at a different rate. Okay? So at the end of the day, you are the advocate for your child. So mothers and fathers, parents in general, they know, they have a tuition, they have an intuition, and they know what's best for their children. So fight for your child. Do not let them just tell you anything, and just sweep your situation under the rug. Get some help. Okay? So, just to recap, 1 out of 20,000 kids back in the day is what he said. But right now, today, 1 in 34 kids. So those statistics, they're so mind boggling to me. Yeah. I don't know where that's going. I don't even know where that statistic even came from, but I'm gonna trust that our commander in chief is not just telling us any old thing, to cause any type of panic. I think that there is some truth to this, like, because the world is different. Now, I read this article about this, and the lady explained that the reason that the numbers vary so much between then and now is because, like, we didn't know much about autism as a society. So, people that were autistic back in the days, like, they were labeled as, you know, slower, or not. They didn't even have any labels. They just kind of pushed them through. It's like the no child left behind thing, when kids were actually struggling with this stuff, and people was just kind of like, yeah, no, this isn't anything, that's worth even caring about. So it makes sense because our society does know a lot more, you know, about this. So I could understand. And as far as, vaccines is concerned, I could understand that argument too, So that is it for now. If you have made it to this part in the video, like, I really do appreciate you. And let me know in the comments what you think. Let's talk about this, because y'all, I had went through it with this. I'm in a way better space than I am about it now, and I can actually talk about it, and I wanted to share it because I know that it's parents out there that feel the same way that I feel and going through the same things. So let's connect, you guys. Let me know your experiences with this. Let me know if it's something that you think that I could be doing better. Okay? All right, y'all, have a good night. Talk to you soon. All right, you guys. So it's been 3 weeks since I filmed the first part of the video. So I wanted to just kind of do a follow up to let you guys know that my daughter was evaluated by a developmental pediatrician that specializes in autism disorder. And I did a questionnaire initially. They observed her playing. They did a test called STAT, I believe. I'll put it up here, and it just went over like all the different milestones. that she has reached. We talked about like the beginning of her life. It was very in depth. It was very emotional, because I didn't know what he was getting ready to say to me. So right now, she does not display enough indicators to qualify her as being on the spectrum, and I'm very, very happy about that. I just wanted to give you guys an update. This has been a very, very stressful thing for me, but it was determined that yes, she does have a developmental delay. She is behind. They are saying that she's like somewhere at about 18 months or so when it comes to speech, because she does have some words. She can communicate her basic needs. She can, like tell me certain things and whatnot, as far as like verbal is concerned. And sometimes kids just don't want to speak, and that's what he mentioned to me, that it could be that like she has a bunch of siblings that speak for her. So it may just be a situation where, she'll just speak in her own time. But in the meantime, we still have our appointment with the audiologist next week, where they'll retest her and determine if she'll be getting the tubes, but most likely she will, to be able to relieve that pressure. She did have a little cold, and he told me that if they have a cold, that sometimes that could contribute to the pressure. So we're gonna just find that out next week, and I will keep you guys updated. And please let me know if you have any questions on any of this process. And yes, I will be back. Thank you for watching.